Hello, and welcome to the Chapter 231 Subchapter F Special Education Personnel Assignment Rule Updates Webinar 2 from June 2025. In this webinar, we will engage with an overview of the updated Chapter 231 Subchapter F Special Education Personnel Assignment Rule text, explore the new Texas Content Competency Worksheet for Special Education Teachers of Record, and complete samples of the Texas worksheet for various teacher scenarios. We'll begin with welcome and context setting. Next, we'll review the updated rule text and the Texas worksheet. Finally, we'll complete the Texas worksheet for various teacher scenarios before closing. We'll begin by taking a look at the updated Chapter 231 Subchapter F Special Education Personnel Assignment Rule text. In the SBEC's most recent round of rulemaking related to Chapter 231 Subchapter F, updates were made in three subsections. First, subsection 231.701 related to assignment of special education teachers. Next, 231.709 for teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing, which included technical edits to align naming conventions used in other subchapters. And finally, rulemaking included a new subsection 231.710 that outlined certification requirements for assignment of teachers of students who are deafblind in the aligned SBEC issued certificate. The majority of the board's discussion involved subsection 231.701 and the proposed content competency requirements for special education teachers of record at the elementary and secondary levels, as well as the development of the Texas Content Competency Worksheet for special education teachers of record, grades EC through 12. The updated rule text in Chapter 231 specifies that all special education teachers must hold a valid special education certificate. The rule text also specifies that content competency requirements are specific to all special education teachers of record. The rule text also bifurcates between previous content competency demonstration via HOUSSE and also includes specific callouts to sections of the figure, the Texas Content Competency Worksheet for Special Education Teachers of Record, grades EC through 12. The Texas Content Competency Worksheet for Special Education Teachers of Record is included as a figure in the Chapter 231 rule text as 231.701D. In summary, the Chapter 231 Special Education Teacher rule text continues to require all special education teachers to hold a valid SBEC-approved special education certification to serve as a special education teacher. The rule text also requires content certification for special education teachers of record that matches the subject and grade level of the teacher's assignment. The rule text also provides an alternate option for demonstration of content competency for special education teachers of record who do not hold the appropriate content certification via the Texas Content Competency Worksheet for special education teachers of record. The updated rule text clarifies requirements for special education teachers of record who previously demonstrated their content competency through HOUSSE prior to September 1st, 2025. The rule text also directs special education teachers of record who did not previously utilize HOUSSE prior to September 1st, 2025 to the appropriate sections of the Texas worksheet. We'll now take a closer look at the Texas Content Competency Worksheet for Special Education Teachers of Record, grades EC through 12. The new Texas Content Competency Worksheet for Special Education Teachers of Record, grades EC through 12, lays out content competency requirements for both elementary and secondary special education teachers of record. For elementary special education teachers of record, those serving in classrooms grades EC through 5, teachers need to meet requirements in Section C of the worksheet by meeting an overall 24-point threshold across ELAR, math, science, and social studies. Secondary special education teachers of record, those serving in classrooms grades 6 through 12, must meet requirements in Section D of the worksheet by meeting an 18-point threshold in each core content area the educator is assigned as a teacher of record. As a note, special education teachers of record who hold the appropriate content certification will not utilize the worksheet. The new Texas Content Competency Worksheet for special education teachers of record contains different sections based on a teacher's individual circumstance. The Texas Content Competency Worksheet, or the Texas Worksheet, includes a Section A for the educator's general information, including their TEA ID number, contains Section B, which is for use by special educators who previously utilized HOUSSE, Sections C and D, which contain the requirements for elementary and secondary special education teachers of record, as well as Section E, which contain additional flexibilities for first-year teachers and secondary teachers of multiple content areas. The worksheet also contains Section F, which houses the administrator attestation, and an appendix in Section G. Across different sections of the Texas worksheet, special education teachers of record can generate points through a combination of college credit hours, previous teaching experience, high-quality professional development, as well as residency experiences, previous paraprofessional experience, a passing score on the Science of Teaching reading exam, or successful completion of the Texas Reading Academies, as well as national board certification and TIA designations, in addition to a passing score on an aligned PACT exam. As a note, those activities included on the Texas worksheet with an asterisk are additional flexibilities adopted by the SBEC and included in the Texas worksheet that were not previously included in HOUSSE. As a reminder for Section B, for special educators utilizing previous subject matter competency provisions, authorized administrators should verify previous content competency requirements were met via HOUSSE as documented on the older Determining Highly Qualified Status and Determining Subject Matter Competency worksheets for teachers at both the elementary and/or secondary levels. Once previous HOUSSE utilization has been verified by an authorized administrator, there is no requirement to attach old HOUSSE documentation to the new Texas worksheet. However, we do encourage retaining these documents for record keeping. In the event a teacher is assigned to a placement that matches their previous HOUSSE utilization, sections A, B, and F of the Texas worksheet should be completed. If that same teacher is then reassigned to a new grade band and/or a new content area outside of their previous HOUSSE utilization, for example, a teacher who demonstrated elementary proficiency via HOUSSE and then is reassigned to a secondary math placement, that teacher would need to meet updated requirements in the appropriate section of the worksheet. A few reminders for Section C for elementary special education teachers of record. Authorized administrators should work with the educator utilizing the worksheet to review documentation of college coursework. Previous teaching and paraprofessional experience should be verified by the administrator, as well as score report documents that should be used to verify points associated with the passing score on the STR exam. CPE records should be reviewed to document any points associated with qualifying professional development. And as a note, certain secondary activities, including teaching experience or professional development, do carry a point value at the elementary level. Additional notes around Section D for secondary special education teachers of record. At the secondary level, special education teachers of record must meet the 18-point threshold in each content area they are assigned as teacher of record. Authorized administrators should work with the educator utilizing the worksheet to review documentation of college coursework. Previous teaching experience and paraprofessional experience should be verified by the administrator. Score report documents should be used to verify points associated with a passing score on the STR exam. And CPE records should be reviewed to document any points associated with qualifying professional development. In the event a teacher holds a TIA designation, those TIA points, 2 points total, may be distributed across a total of 2 content areas at the secondary level. Additional notes for Section E for first-year teachers and secondary teachers of multiple content areas only. The goal of Section E is to provide additional layers of flexibility to these groups of special education teachers. Both first-year teachers and secondary teachers of multiple, 2 or more content areas are provided a year-long runway, which is documented within Section E of the Texas Worksheet, to meet content competency requirements. During a teacher's runway year, both first-year teachers and secondary teachers of multiple content areas can engage in targeted, high-quality professional development in their deficient content area or areas, satisfy their content competency requirements for their grade band and content area by opting to take and pass an aligned PACT exam, or teachers can seek full content certification to meet the requirements of the updated personnel assignment rules. For example, an ELAR 712 certificate. As a note, teachers and administrators are not required to complete a new copy of the Texas Worksheet after a teacher has utilized a flexibility in Section E. Administrators may document the educator's point values in either Section C or D with a notation around the updated completion date and administrator initials beside the section to streamline documentation. We'll now take a look at different scenarios and complete the Texas Worksheet. The next few slides will walk through completed samples of the Texas Worksheet for common teacher scenarios. For each scenario and sample worksheet, the following will be provided: the educator's information and their instructional context, the appropriate worksheet section information, applicable activities and their associated point values, as well as examples of documentation that may be used to complete the worksheet. As administrators prepare to complete the Texas Worksheet for their special education teachers of record, the following approach is recommended. First, take a moment to review implementation support materials, including reading through the comprehensive FAQ document and viewing webinars. Ensure there is sufficient time scheduled with each teacher to complete the worksheet. Have all necessary materials on hand, including copies of the educator's transcripts or academic summaries, CPE and employment records, older HOUSSE documentations, score reports, etc. Next, complete all applicable sections of the worksheet. Provide the educator a completed version of the Texas Worksheet for their records. And finally, file the completed copy of the Texas Worksheet in the educator's HR file. We'll now review the Texas Worksheet Scenario 1 for a teacher who previously demonstrated their content proficiency via HOUSSE. We will complete a sample Texas Worksheet for Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith holds and has passed a 161 Special Education EC12 exam and Aligned certificate and is assigned to a 4th grade self-contained special education teacher of record role. Mr. Smith previously demonstrated content proficiency via the elementary HOUSSE option in 2021 and has served in his current role for 4 years. Based on the educator's information, administrators should work with Mr. Smith to complete the following sections of the Texas Worksheet. Section A, General Information. Section B, for educators utilizing previous subject matter provisions. And Section F, Administrator Assurances. Within Section A of the worksheet for Mr. Smith, the teacher's name will be documented, their TEA ID, the date the worksheet was completed, and the administrator should also verify that the teacher holds a valid SBEC-approved special education certification that is appropriate for the grade level of their assignment and instruction. Next, within Section B of the worksheet, the administrator will attest that the special education teacher, Mr. Smith, met previous HOUSSE provisions prior to September 1st, 2025 at the elementary level. Note: authorized administrators should verify previous content competency requirements were met via HOUSSE as documented on the older Determining Highly Qualified Status and Determining Subject Matter Competency worksheets for teachers at both the elementary and/or secondary levels. Next, the administrator will complete Section F of the worksheet for Mr. Smith and indicate by circling the first bullet point that the teacher met subject matter competency provisions via HOUSSE prior to September 1st, 2025 through attestation in Section B of the document. The administrator will provide their signature, their printed name, and the date the worksheet was completed. We'll next review the Texas Worksheet Scenario 2 for an elementary special education teacher of record. Ms. Lynn has passed her 161 Special Education EC-12 exam and holds the Aligned certificate. Ms. Lynn will be serving in a third grade self-contained special education teacher of record role and has served for 2 years as a third grade special education inclusion teacher before transitioning to the teacher of record role. Based on this information, administrators should work with Ms. Lynn to complete the following sections of the Texas worksheet. Section A for Ms. Lynn's general information, Section C for elementary special education teachers of record, and Section F, the administrator assurances. First, Section A will be completed with the educator's name, TEA ID number, the date the worksheet was completed, and the additional verification that the teacher holds a valid SBEC-approved special education certification. Next, Ms. Lynn and the authorized administrator will work together to complete Section C of the worksheet for elementary special education teachers of record. As a reminder, within Section C of the worksheet, teachers must meet a combined total of at least 24 points across all 4 core content areas, with no content areas having fewer than 3 points. First, Ms. Lynn's college credit hours will be documented in the appropriate row, meaning she has 3 hours of undergraduate math coursework, 6 hours of undergraduate science coursework, and 12 hours of undergraduate social studies coursework, as verified in her academic summary documents. Next, the educator's previous teaching experience and the associated point values are documented in the row here. Ms. Lynn has 2 years of previous teaching experience as an inclusion teacher at the elementary level, and so 6 points are documented each for math, science, social studies, and ELAR, and are verified on her teacher service record. Finally, Ms. Lynn's total points per content area are documented in the bottom row. 9 points, 12 points, 18 points, and 6 points, for a total of 45 out of the required 24 points at the elementary level. Finally, Section F will be completed, with the administrator verifying that the teacher met the minimum point threshold for content competency in Section C of the worksheet. The authorized administrator will provide their signature, their printed name, as well as the date the worksheet was completed. Next, we'll complete a sample worksheet for a secondary special education teacher of record. Mr. Harrison has passed the 161 Special Education EC-12 exam and holds the Aligned certificate. He'll be serving as a 9th grade special education teacher of record in a math resource room. Mr. Harrison has also served for 4 years as a special education math inclusion teacher before transitioning to this teacher of record role. Based on this information, administrators should work with Mr. Harrison to complete the following sections of the Texas worksheet. Section A for general information, Section D for secondary special education teachers of record, and Section F for administrator assurances. First, the general information will be completed with the teacher's name, TEAID number, the date the worksheet was completed, and the additional verification that the teacher holds a valid SBEC approved special education certification that is appropriate for the grade level of assignment and instruction. Next, Section D of the worksheet will be completed for secondary special education teachers of record. As a reminder, secondary special education teachers of record, those serving in grades 6 through 12, must demonstrate content competency in each core area for which they are assigned by meeting the required 18 points in each content area they are assigned as teacher of record. First, any college credit hours in the content area will be documented. Mr. Harrison has 3 undergraduate college credit hours in math as verified on an academic summary document. Next, Mr. Harrison's previous teaching experience and the associated point values will be documented in this row. Teachers can generate 3 points for each year of experience in the content area. Mr. Harrison has 4 previous years as a math inclusion teacher, meaning he can document 12 points in the content area here, as verified on his teacher service record. Next, the administrator will verify any qualifying professional development. Mr. Harrison has completed 3 hours of qualifying math-aligned professional development at the secondary level, as verified on a CPE record. Finally, Mr. Harrison's total points should be calculated in the bottom row. He is only serving as a special education teacher of record in math in the math resource room, and he meets the 18 out of 18 required points to demonstrate content proficiency in the final row here. Finally, Section F of the worksheet will be completed. The administrator will provide the assurance that the teacher met the minimum point threshold for content competency in each area they are assigned as teacher of record in Section D of the document. The authorized administrator will provide their signature, their name, and the date the worksheet was completed. We'll next complete the worksheet for a first-year teacher, Ms. Parker. Ms. Parker previously took and passed her 186 Special Education Specialist EC12 exam and holds the Aligned certificate. Ms. Parker will be serving as a 2nd grade elementary self-contained special education teacher of record and is a new graduate from a Texas EPP. Based on this information, administrators will work with Ms. Parker to complete the following sections of the Texas worksheet. Section A, General Information. Section C, Elementary Special Education Teachers of Record. Section E for first-year teachers. And Section F, Administrator Assurances. Please note, while Ms. Parker is a first-year teacher, in order to identify the most appropriate option or options to satisfy content requirements for a first-year teacher during their runway year, the educator's total points should first be calculated in Section C. Section A will be completed with the educator's name, their TEAID number, the date the worksheet is completed, as well as the administrator verification that the teacher holds a valid SBEC-approved special education certification that is appropriate for the grade level of assignment and instruction. Next, in order to determine Ms. Parker's options during her runway year, her points should first be calculated in Section C for elementary special education teachers of record. Ms. Parker's undergraduate college credit hours are documented here as verified on her transcript. Next, Ms. Parker's point totals per content area are calculated in the bottom row. Ms. Parker has earned 21 out of the required 24 points total for elementary special education teachers of record in math, science, and social studies, but is deficient in 3 points in ELAR. Next, Section E for first-year special education teachers of record will be completed. The start date and end date of the teacher's runway year will be calculated in Section E. And as a reminder, Ms. Parker has earned 21 out of the required 24 points total for elementary special education teachers of record, but does need 3 additional points in the ELAR column to meet content competency requirements. Given that Ms. Parker requires 3 points in ELAR to satisfy her content requirements at the elementary level, the administrator and Ms. Parker should work together to identify any pathways to content certification that are available, appropriate PACT exams for Ms. Parker to take and pass, and or targeted professional development opportunities Ms. Parker can complete during her runway year. These are all available options for Ms. Parker during her year-long runway provided within Section E of the Texas Worksheet. Next, Section F of the worksheet will be completed, with the administrator indicating in the final bullet point that the teacher met provisions for a first-year teacher within Section E of the document. The authorized administrator will then sign, provide their name, as well as the date the worksheet was completed. Next, we'll complete the worksheet for a secondary teacher of multiple content areas, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson has taken and passed his 161 Special Education EC12 exam and holds the aligned certificate. Mr. Jackson is assigned mid-year to an English and Social Studies Special Education Teacher of Record role in a high school self-contained program. Mr. Jackson also previously served as an ELAR inclusion teacher at the high school level for 3 years. Based on this information, administrators should work with Mr. Jackson to complete the following sections of the Texas Worksheet. Section A, General Information. Section D, Secondary Special Education Teachers of Record. Section E for Secondary Teachers of Multiple Content Areas. And Section F, Administrator Assurances. Please note, in order to identify the most appropriate options to satisfy content requirements for secondary teachers of multiple content areas during the runway year, the educator's total points should first be calculated in Section D. Section A will be completed with Mr. Jackson's name, TEA ID number, the date the worksheet is completed for the teacher, and the administrator will also verify the teacher holds a valid SBEC approved special education certification that is appropriate for the grade level of assignment and instruction. Please note, Mr. Jackson is assigned to his teacher of record role mid-year, meaning his worksheet is completed on January 12th, 2026. Next, Mr. Jackson's point totals in Section D for secondary special education teachers of record will be totaled. As a reminder, secondary special education teachers of record must meet a required 18 points in each area they are assigned as teacher of record. Mr. Jackson is assigned to a Social Studies and ELAR teacher of record role, so his applicable points will be calculated here. Mr. Jackson has 12 undergraduate hours in Social Studies and 6 undergraduate hours in ELAR, as verified on an academic summary document. Mr. Jackson's previous ELAR teaching experience will also be documented in the appropriate row and column, as verified on his teacher service record. points from qualifying professional development are calculated here, as verified on Mr. Jackson's CPE record. Mr. Jackson's total points in Social Studies and ELAR will be calculated in the bottom row, where he has 12 of the required 18 points in the Social Studies content area and 16 of the required 18 points in ELAR. Mr. Jackson needs 6 more points in the Social Studies column to demonstrate content proficiency and 2 more points on the ELAR column to demonstrate content proficiency. Next, Section E of the Texas worksheet will be completed for secondary teachers of multiple content areas only in order for Mr. Jackson to utilize the additional flexibilities within this section of the worksheet. The start date and end date of Mr. Jackson's runway year are documented here, beginning on January 12th, 2026 and ending on January 12th, 2027. As a reminder, within Mr. Jackson's runway year, he needs 6 additional points in the Social Studies column and 2 additional points in the ELAR column in order to meet content competency requirements. Given that Mr. Jackson requires 6 points in Social Studies and 2 points in ELAR to satisfy content requirements at the secondary level, the administrator and Mr. Jackson would then work together to identify any appropriate pathways to content certification, appropriate PACT exams for Mr. Jackson to take, and/or targeted professional development opportunities that could be completed during Mr. Jackson's runway year. These are all available options for Mr. Jackson during the year-long runway. Next, Section F of the worksheet will be completed, where the authorized administrator will provide assurance that the teacher met provisions for secondary teachers of multiple content areas within Section E of the document. The administrator will sign, provide their name, as well as the date the worksheet was completed for Mr. Jackson. We'll next complete the Texas worksheet for a special education teacher of record serving on an intern certificate, Ms. Holly. Ms. Holly has taken and passed her 186 Special Education Specialist EC12 exam, as well as the 293 Science of Teaching Reading exam, and will be serving as a special education teacher of record for all 4 core content areas in an elementary self-contained classroom. Ms. Holly is serving as a special education teacher of record on an intern certificate while seeking core subjects EC6 with Science of Teaching Reading certification. Based on this information, administrators would work with Ms. Holly to complete the following sections of the Texas worksheet. General information, Section C for elementary special education teachers of record, and because this is Ms. Holly's first year providing instruction to students, Section E for first year teachers, as well as Section F, administrator assurances. As a reminder, in order to identify the most appropriate options to satisfy content requirements for a first year teacher during their runway year, the educator's total points should first be calculated within Section C. First, Section A of the worksheet will be completed with the teacher's name, TEA ID number, the date the worksheet was completed, as well as the additional verification that the educator holds an appropriate special education certification. Next, Ms. Holly's total points will be calculated in Section C for elementary special education teachers of record. Ms. Holly's undergraduate coursework hours will be documented in the appropriate row here, as verified on a copy of her transcript. Because Ms. Holly is a first-year teacher, there is no previous teaching experience to document on this section of the worksheet. Next, because Ms. Holly has a passing score on the 293 Science of Teaching and Reading exam, as verified on her score report, 12 points can be documented on the ELAR column here. Next, Ms. Holly's totals per content area will be calculated in the bottom row. Ms. Holly has 33 out of the required 24 points required to meet content competency requirements at the elementary level. Although Ms. Holly meets the definition of a first-year teacher within Section E, she meets content requirements within Section C of the Texas Worksheet. In this case, the first-year teacher provisions within Section E of the worksheet should not be utilized. Next, Section F of the worksheet will be completed for Ms. Holly. As a reminder, although Ms. Holly met the definition of a first-year teacher within Section E of the worksheet, she had a 33 out of the required 24 points total needed to demonstrate content proficiency at the elementary level, and the administrator will indicate here that the teacher met the minimum point threshold for content competency within Section C of the worksheet. The administrator will then sign, provide their name, as well as the date that the worksheet was completed. Finally, we'll complete the worksheet for a special education teacher of record who is reassigned, Mr. Davila. Mr. Davila has taken and passed his 161 Special Education EC-12 exam and holds the Aligned Certificate. Mr. Davila will be serving as a special education teacher of record in all core content areas in a self-contained elementary classroom, and spent the past 2 years as a secondary math and science special education teacher of record who was utilizing the Texas Worksheet. Based on this information, administrators will work with Mr. Davila to complete the following sections of the Texas Worksheet. Section A, General Information. Section C, Elementary Special Education Teachers of Record. And Section F, Administrator Assurances. Within Section A, the teacher's name, their TEA ID number, and the date the worksheet was completed will be documented here. Administrators will also verify that the teacher holds a valid SBEC-approved special education certification that is appropriate for the grade level of assignment and instruction. Next, because Mr. Davila is transitioning to an elementary special education teacher of record role, he needs to meet requirements within Section C of the Texas Worksheet by meeting a total of 24 points across all content areas, with no content areas having less than 3 points. Mr. Davila's college credit hours in each of the content areas are documented here, as verified on an academic summary document. Mr. Davila's previous teaching experience in math and science are documented here, as verified on his teacher service record. Next, Mr. Davila's totals per content area will be calculated in the bottom row. And then his combined point totals will be calculated here, where he has 36 out of the required 24 points total needed to demonstrate content proficiency at the elementary level. As a reminder, Mr. Davila is transitioning between a secondary special education teacher of record role and an elementary special education teacher of role. In his secondary special education teacher of record role, he utilized Section D of the Texas Worksheet and is now utilizing Section C of the worksheet. The authorized administrator will provide their initials and the updated completion date for Section C alongside Mr. Davila's point totals to indicate he has demonstrated content proficiency within Section C of the worksheet. Administrator assurances will also be completed. Because Mr. Davila previously demonstrated content proficiency at the secondary level in Section D of the document, the authorized administrator will indicate the teacher met the minimum point threshold for content competency within Section D. Their signature, name, and date that the Texas Worksheet was originally completed for Mr. Davila are indicated here. We'll conclude with a few reminders for completion of the Texas Worksheet. Administrators should work with teachers to complete the appropriate sections of the Texas Worksheet in the event they are assigned as a special education teacher of record and do not hold the appropriate content certification. Authorized administrators should review employment records, transcripts, score reports, CPE records, and other relevant documentation to document point values in the applicable section of the Texas worksheet. In the event a special education teacher assigned as a teacher of record does not hold the appropriate content certification and does not meet content competency requirements in the applicable section of the Texas worksheet, the teacher may not be assigned as teacher of record in that content area. A completed copy of the Texas worksheet should be filed in the educator's HR file and a copy provided to the educator for their records. We'll now take a moment to review the timeline for additional implementation supports. The first rule text and worksheet walkthrough webinar was posted May 16th of 2025, with the initial FAQ document posting May 23rd, 2025. This Texas worksheet scenario webinar will be available beginning June 13th, 2025, with an updated FAQ document available no later than July 25th of 2025. All materials and resources can be found on the TEA Educator Certification page on the new Special Education Personnel Assignment Guidance site. Thanks so much for viewing the Chapter 231 Special Education Personnel Assignment Scenario webinar. Questions for consideration in the updated Chapter 231 Special Education Personnel Assignment Rules FAQ 2.0 document should be submitted to the FAQ submission form via QR code provided here. Thanks so much, and we hope to see you soon.